Hello, this is Yogeshwar 7000 again, and I'm back with my series on retrograde planets. So far, we've discussed three retrograde planets, which are Mercury, Jupiter, and Venus. And today we'll be discussing about Saturn retrograde. As you know, we consider nine major planets in Vedic astrology, and out of the nine planets, Rahu and Ketu are always retrograde, or in Sanskrit, as it's called, Vakri. And Sun and Moon are always direct, which in Sanskrit are called Margi. So we're left with five planets, and today we'll be discussing about Saturn retrograde. So what exactly is a retrograde? There is nothing as such which is a retrograde planet in practical terms, because all the planets are actually going direct. They are moving around the sun, which is including the planet Earth. And because the motion of Earth, while we are sitting here on Earth, all the planets are going around the planet Sun, there are times when in motion some of the planets, and we've noticed that five planets, which are Jupiter, Saturn, Mercury, Mars, and Venus, five planets appear, because in relative terms, while sitting here on Earth, in relative terms, these five planets appear to move in the opposite direction, or retrograde motion. They don't, but since in relative terms, since Earth is also in motion and the other planets are also in motion going around Sun, they appear to go retrograde or in the opposite direction. Now, like I mentioned, that Sun and Moon are never even going to appear going in the opposite direction. So we have to remember that we are considering only five planets here. Now, first of all, Sun actually doesn't even move. It's static, and all the planets are going around it. But in the Vedic chart, you will see that even Sun jumps from one zodiac sign to the other, but it always jumps in the direct motion. It never goes retrograde. So if you look at it relatively, Sun also is moving, but actually it's not moving. The Earth is moving and the other planets are moving. Sun is static, and it appears that Sun is also moving, but in the forward direction. So you'll see Sun and Moon moving from the first house to the second house to the third, so on and so forth, and the other five planets moving also from the first house to the second to the third to the fourth, so on and so forth. However, at times these five planets which I just described, which are Jupiter, Saturn, Mercury, Mars, and Venus, at times they appear to move in the reverse direction. And of course, Rahu and Ketu, which are invisible planets, they always move in the opposite direction, meaning which they'll move from, say for example, they are sitting in the Rahu is sitting in the fourth house, and Ketu is right opposite to it. It's sitting in the 10th house. So the next movement of Rahu and Ketu is always going to be, Rahu will move from the 4th to the 3rd house, and Ketu will move from the 10th to the 9th house. So always opposite. So I've explained this in detail in my other videos, so I just wanted to go over it real quick so that you understand. So the interesting part here is that whenever a planet appears to go in the opposite direction or is in retrograde motion, as we see in a birth chart, the effect of the planet on Earth and the people living on Earth, which is us, has a different influence as compared to if it was going in direct motion. So it becomes very critical for us to understand what are the effects of a retrograde planet in a birth chart. So today, as we are talking about retrograde planets, the retrograde planet Saturn, so we'll go into first the significations of the Saturn. Saturn signifies wisdom, spirituality. Well, wisdom actually is Jupiter, but also wisdom also is one of the significators of Saturn as well. Mostly Jupiter, but Saturn as well. Fame and authority, long life. Life basically is one of major significations of the planet Saturn. Honesty, straightforwardness, love for justice. It's a big judge. God has given the planet Saturn as being a judge to reward and punish people based on their deeds. So one of the major significations of the planet Saturn is justice. And of course, in case Saturn is not well placed, or if it's afflicted, it actually signifies disappointments, difficulties, sorrows, old age. People with a malefic Saturn actually have this problem of looking older than their age. So these are the significations related to the planet Saturn. And according to some astrologers, that whenever Saturn is retrograde, then a person feels challenges in these areas of the significations we just discussed. One of the significations is fame, so a person may get ill fame in case it's retrograde according to astrology. So all these significations will go in the negative direction in case the planet Saturn is retrograde in somebody's birth chart according to some astrologers. So like I just explained to you, a person may get ill fame. He may not be spiritual because one of the significations of Saturn is about spirituality. He may not lead an authoritative life. He may not have a long life. He may look much older than what his real age is. He may be full of sorrows. One of the major significations of Saturn is sorrow. It's a karaka of sorrow, so as to say. So the person may be sorrowful all his life. He could be in a lot of sadness and sorrow all his life, have major difficulties, miseries, so on and so forth. And that is according to some astrologers, that whenever Saturn goes retrograde, these are the effects. All the negative things happen, whichever is signified by the planet Saturn. However, that may not be true. Well, first of all, we have to understand, when a planet gets retrograde, it is actually at a point where it's nearest to the planet Earth. So it exerts its maximum influence on that person, because being it nearest to the planet Earth at that point of time. Now, I will not say that these astrologers who have been saying that a retrograde planet or a retrograde Saturn is always negative, I will not say that it's completely wrong. It is true to some extent, because Saturn is a major malefic. And if you look at it logically, if the planet Saturn is closest to Earth and it's influencing its maximum, it's influencing its maximum effect on humans at that point of time, being a major malefic, it has to give the negative significations of itself, of whatever it signifies. It has to give negative effects of its signification, so as to say. So so those astrologers are right to some extent. However, not always, regardless of the fact that Saturn is a major malefic, not always does it gives malefic effects. And there are rules, and those rules are given by the great sages, and the ancient scriptures mention those rules as to what are those situations when Saturn, being such a major malefic and being in retrograde motion, having a major influence on humans at that point of time, may not be able to give a malefic influence or a negative influence. On the contrary, there are situations or there are conditions where Saturn can give real benefic effects in its retrograde motion. Now, one of the examples I'm going to give is the great film star of Indian cinema, Amitabh Bachchan. He has Aquarius rising, and of course, Aquarius is ruled by Saturn, and his Saturn is sitting in his fourth house, and it is in retrograde motion at the point of. It was in retrograde motion at the point at the time when he was born. So it sits there in his birth chart as a retrograde planet, and it has the planet Saturn has given so much positive results to this great film star that he has become a household, practically a household name in India, a big film star who has been actually been been there in the Indian cinema as a shining star for the last, I would say, about 30-40 years maybe. So that is one example I want to give you, that no, not always a retrograde Saturn can give negative effects, and there are rules, and I'm going to have a separate video on that as to when are those conditions when a retrograde planet gives actually a retrograde planet like a Saturn, which is a major malefic, can give positive effects. And I'll have a video where I'll explain pretty much all the planets. So hopefully, you know, I just wanted to bring it to your attention, what happens, what is a retrograde motion, what happens when a benefic is a retrograde, or what happens when a malefic is a retrograde. In this case today we discussed about the major malefic, a malefic of the malefics, Saturn retrograde, and what are its effects. And I've given you an example also of somebody whose Saturn is retrograde, and on the contrary, it has given him a lot of positive effects. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and in the meanwhile, I will recommend, please subscribe to my channel and check out my website. There is a link below, and I will see you with an interesting topic soon. Thank you.